Thank you, Andrew. Hi, everyone, and thank you to NewMR for putting on this festival and inviting us to be a part of it. So I'm Katrina.
And I'm Janet.
And together we're the co-founders of Scoot Insights. We're based in San Francisco, California, where we're having a very early spring today. And today we're going to talk about how to rev up your own qualitative research, Actionable Insights Accelerated.
So just a quick bit of background on Scoot. We've founded specifically to offer a faster turnaround approach to qualitative research, particularly so that in today's fast-moving world, qualitative can still have a place at the table. And the goal was to offer all the in-depth understanding provided by a more traditional qualitative approach, but fast enough that it doesn't get left out of the equation. So Scoot sessions provide an accelerated approach. And a Scoot session, which is our name for them, will combine the deep customer understanding you need, but integrate this efficiently with your stakeholder knowledge by merging the two together in real time for more effective and faster decision making, often going through fieldwork and to report in just a few days. So advances in research don't have to all be about technology. Customer research is about understanding the human perspective, and our NewMR Agile process is about understanding humans in a more efficient way. So a Scoot session can work equally well whether you're in person in a facility or via an online webcam platform with us, the respondents, and the stakeholders all based remotely, or with us on site with all our stakeholders if they're based in one location. We are technology agnostic and leverage the tools we need when it serves the goals of the research. So that's Scoot in a nutshell. And today we want to share what we've learned having run hundreds of Scoot sessions that we believe other researchers can do too.
So there are 4 key pillars to scooting, and we want to take each in turn so that you can scoot too, with or without us. The first one that we're going to talk about today is revving up qualitative research. So at the core, we're looking to provide fast turnaround insights that are born of a deep dive understanding. And that requires a very clear and focused objective if you're going to rev that up. You've got to make sure that you've got a single-minded problem to solve. But the key is stakeholders would benefit from customer or user input. And sometimes, as Janet mentioned, qualitative gets removed from the menu of options because people think it takes too long to set up or run or analyze. So we're going to talk a little bit about today about how you can keep it part of the options.
Efficiency. How do we achieve that? It is absolutely critical if you're going to move fast to be more efficient in every step of the process. So if you're going to pack what was traditionally maybe a 6 to 7 week process into just a few days, efficiency is absolutely key. You want to be as efficient as possible with everyone's time. So that includes the respondents, the research or design team, the ad agency team, the stakeholder team, whoever they may be. And here are a few suggestions of how we do it. So instead of doing everything with just one person across several weeks, you'll need to pull the right team of people together to make things happen a lot faster. You'll need a front room moderator, a back room moderator, an analyst, a designer, a copywriter, whoever's the right team for the project. We suggest you run more shorter sessions, all in one day. You can run them more or less back to back with only 10 to 15 minutes between each session. And this means that lead stakeholders only have to allocate one day of their time to be fully immersed in this intense learning experience, rather than only being able to see the odd 1 or 2 sessions when they're spread out over a number of days or even across weeks, and risk not having the whole picture. With a focused objective, you can run shorter sessions which can make recruiting easier and more efficient. It's simply much easier to find people who can give you 30 to 45 minutes of their time than, say, 2 hours of their time. Think about live intercept recruit, whether you're doing in person with street-based recruiters or online via one of the panels. Have fewer participants in each of your sessions. Because they're shorter, you want to get an in-depth understanding. Anything from maybe 1 to 4 people at a time we find works best, and I think the sweet spot is probably 3. This way you can still reach 20 to 30 people in a day.
So with all of those people involved, then you have to worry about how to be agile. So I know it's a big buzzword these days, but how we think of agile is that nothing is static. When you're doing these kinds of projects, the understanding evolves throughout the day. So then you need to be ready to change things up as appropriate. You can always evolve the discussion guide or interview guide. Remember, that is a guide to learning. So as learning emerges, it in turn needs to be updated. And then consider evolving the stimuli throughout the qualitative process. If there are written concepts, then use the learning to make them better, tighter, clearer, more focused as the day progresses. If it's an innovation project, you can have a sketch artist on hand to draw up ideas as they emerge, or as participants describe improvements to the idea that you started with. So consider agile fieldwork design, such as a day of steering sessions to explore an opportunity area, a brand, market mapping, etc., and then a day to iterate for ideas and solutions based on that fieldwork. Then you can go right back into fieldwork based on drawing and writing up some of those ideas and representing them to a new batch of participants or co-creators. So it's a learning environment, and we really want to emphasize that you can constantly move forward and identify the insights that are revealing actionable, compelling, distinctive solutions. But to do that, you really need to approach it in an agile, iterative way.
So the whole day really does need to be highly interactive, not just in the front room with the participants, but also in the back room, where the backroom moderator is working with the stakeholders to capture key learning in real time. You've got to draw out themes as they emerge throughout the sessions, and make sure you run an end-of-day interactive debrief discussion with all the stakeholders so that you can review and discuss in depth the learning from the day, and merge this with the expertise and knowledge of the stakeholders. Then you can identify the actionable insights together to make sure that they're shared and owned by everyone in the stakeholder team. So the output from this session should be captured in real time so that it can be shared out as a top-line report. And then you can do this within 24 hours to make sure everyone is singing from the same hymn sheet for efficient reporting.
So we've run hundreds of these Scoot sessions, as we call them, but there's endless uses for an intense day of customer and stakeholder learning in these kinds of cases. So if you think about some upcoming projects that you have, think about how you can bring the customer perspective to messaging or marketing collateral, provide direction on concept and packaging refinement. We use a lot of sessions to kind of solidify that approach, explore the jobs to be done, align stakeholders on a key decision that needs to be made. We often find that key decisions may benefit from qualitative, even if it, and people think that it's going to take too much time. And we found a way that if you inject this agile approach, you really can help them make stakeholder decisions, product marketing decisions, with the qualitative staying in the mix. Think about if your clients are looking to explore new opportunities for innovation, and it's a great way to get qualitative input to design better quant studies.
So to demonstrate when and how a Scoot session can be most valuable as a tool in your research toolbox, we'd like to share 5 quick stories of Scoot sessions in actions and how we've found, or rather our clients have found them to be incredibly helpful. So, advertising development. Confidentiality was key. So an in-person Scoot session was held so no one could take a quick screenshot of the asset. It was for a major gaming brand who were looking to make a final decision on the soundtrack for an ad to support the launch of one of their major gaming titles in time for their all-important Christmas sales period. Time was of the essence, as the first media slot was imminent. The client team and the ad agency were at loggerheads on whether the music should be a sort of fighting war song or a light-hearted track to support the action in this first-person shooter game. In the end, the music decision became irrelevant. Early on in the day of sessions, it emerged that the final film cut of the ad communicated something the earlier ad set version had not. American gamers thought the ad was set not in a Polish housing estate where it had actually been filmed, but on a school campus. And as snowballs turned into hand grenades and snowbanks turned into guns, thoughts of school campus shootings were triggered. Even after the massive investment in creating the ad and the imminent media deadline, after much discussion at the end of the day debrief, the decision to pull the ad was made and agreed by all the stakeholders who luckily were present. This tough decision was vindicated when the week the ad would have been aired was the same week of the San Bernardino mass shooting at a school in the US. The potential damage to the image of the parent brand could have been significant. This disaster was averted.
And our second story is in a little bit of a more lighthearted note that Backcountry.com, an online retailer, enlisted our help to develop a private label brand, which is actually launching this spring. So we ran scoot sessions with both their customer target groups and their gear heads, which is what they call their phone bank sales team, to gauge what both groups felt the white space areas were in terms of outdoor gear and apparel, and where Backcountry's brand could best fit within that white space. So our iterative, efficient process actually helped the designers to iterate throughout the day of customer research and then refine their concept with the help of the gearhead experts. So I think it's a good way of thinking about who you can pull in within your own organization and customer base into this efficient research process, who could weigh in along the way.
So story number 3, a completely different category. This is about fine-tuning the positioning and communication and promotion for the launch of a brand extension for the Lyft brand. Lyft is a major competitor to Uber here in the US market, for anybody who doesn't know it. And a scoot session was seen as ideal because not only was time really tight, but they also needed a cost-effective way to talk to people in different markets around the US, as the needs of rideshare customers in New York, LA, San Francisco were expected to be very different by market. As online webcam platform was used to interview many groups of customers in New York earlier in the day, and then later in the day, LA and San Francisco. Behind the mirror moderator and the real-time analyst were here on the ground with the whole client team at their offices in San Francisco, observing and capturing the learning as it emerged. And so at the end of the day, an interactive debrief allowed the whole team to discuss all their options and agree a strategy for launching Lyft lines with a common core positioning, but with nuanced communication and promotional strategies to accommodate the very different needs of riders in each of the 3 markets, LA, New York, and San Francisco.
And then an online learning platform needed to understand how to communicate a new set of course offerings. So in story 4, we actually set a single day of scoot sessions with 10 students, one at a time, one-on-one interviews, and we exposed them to potential messaging and communication options from this online learning platform in order to understand what worked for them and what didn't. And we debriefed immediately with the stakeholder team afterwards, so that what they walked away with was a shared plan of action for the best way of tightening up that communication and messaging for their offering. So think about it, if you could just carve out one day of back-to-back qualitative sessions to get your whole team's attention and make decisions in the course of a single day, where could you plug that into your process? And finally, our 5th story today is Avery Office Supplies asked us to help work with them and their packaging design agency to rework the packaging of a staple product in their line. So we, in that case, used a combination of remote webcam sessions and in-person mini groups, and we brought the customer into that redesign process. We actually held sessions at 2 key points in that design development to keep the voice of the customer alive throughout the iteration process. So think about involving your agency partners in this research process as well. Invite them to the sessions and the debrief so that they can get really immersed in the voice of the customer to lead their design.
So those were 5 quick examples of where a scoot session, played a key role in cracking a problem or providing consumer input in order to make, basically a smarter decision for the whole team. In summary, no matter what objective you're working towards, here are some best practices to help you rev up your qual. Make sure you interview the stakeholders before you even start so that you can ensure really there is a clear and shared objective. And believe me, allow enough time to really make sure that everybody understands that you're working to the same objective. And when you start to write things down on paper is when the differences appear. So set an efficient schedule for your field work. Make sure you're using experienced moderators, both in front and behind the mirror. And iterate your stimuli throughout the day. Don't forget, you want to come out at the end of the day much further forward than where you went in at the beginning of the day. Capture and synthesize the learnings in real time. Identify your themes and collect good old post-it notes on flip charts is great if you're all in person. And there are various online platforms you can use as well for when you're doing this all online. Critical is this facilitating an immediate debrief workshop. So actually the sort of only focus group in the day is when all the stakeholders gather around the table at the end of the day, and you really sort of use the output and the learning from throughout the day to drive that discussion and to inform that discussion, where you start to merge this client expertise with the audience learning. And then report out quickly. Make sure that people aren't going off with their own separate notes on what they think they've learned. Hopefully everybody at this point is on the same page, and that report that you share the next day can make sure that everybody is heading in the same direction.
Okay.
Thank you for your time today. We're definitely open to questions about anything that you might want to ask to help embrace a faster qualitative approach in your own toolbox.